Oh my god. Alright, so we have finally made it up to the finale of The Flash. Now, just so you guys know, if you have been paying attention to my Flash reviews, the last Flash season that I reviewed was Season 6. We've now reached Season 9, and I haven't reviewed Season 7 or 8 or 9. So, because I had a bit of time off YouTube, I thought I would just review 7, 8, and 9 in one whole video because there's really not that much to talk about, but I do need to still talk about The Flash because I've been reviewing it since Season 1. So here we go with The Flash Season 7. Seeing Nash Wells sacrifice himself was emotional, but they kind of just did too many things to make it essentially pointless. Like, his sacrifice amounted to nothing. Also, they brought Timeless Wells back, which is the Wells of Earth 1, back to life. So it just felt like Nash Wells, his sacrifice was for nothing. It felt kind of pointless. It was emotional at first when I saw it, but after that, as the season progressed. However, for Season 7, one of the most investing story arcs in Season 7 was Kristen Kramer, who's a bitch. I really did not like her in Season 7, even though we grow to like her later, especially her involvement with Killer Frost. Killer Frost has always been a favourite character of mine since she turned up in Season 2? Yeah, all the way back to Season 2. Even Frost's annoying love interest in this season, I thought it was fun. I loved Killer Frost in this season. She had a lot of great moments, a lot of stuff to do. Respectfully though, Kristen Kramer's story and her past was almost just as interesting. I was interested in this person who I initially hated so much. The main plot of this season, of Season 7, focusing on these new forces being created by Barry and Iris, was okay. It was pretty standard Flash storytelling as far as I'm concerned, but it did provide us with a very emotionally invested story focusing on Chester. My big problem with Season 7 is mainly the fact that it jumps around to too many main villains and then introduces or reintroduces the Speed Force as a villain and then goes off of that to Godspeed. So yeah, I found it very hard to get invested in the overall season when it just kept focusing on when it kept having main villains, like 3 different main villains throughout the entire season. Anyway, let's move on to Season 8 of The Flash. So this season starts off with what is essentially a crossover type event, split up into 5 parts focusing on Barry's madness, essentially. A lot of this is brought on by the time-traveling shenanigans of none other than Eobard Thawne, and I must say that this was actually really investing. This was a very strong start to this season in that it initially was a very intriguing murder mystery, sort of. Even though there's not much murdering going on, it was a very intriguing mystery figuring out who the hell is pulling the strings, because I wasn't expecting Eobard Thawne, even though it makes more sense in retrospect. It was very clear with the introduction of Despero that this 5-part storyline, or crossover as it were, definitely had a bigger budget, because these crossovers always have had a bigger budget than the regular shows. And even though this isn't technically a crossover, it's still a crossover, because we still have like Batwoman, the lady from Supergirl's sister, I don't know, other people, I can't remember their names. In the middle of Season 8, we have this, I don't know, skull-like creature wreathed in blue flames that essentially wants to suck the soul out of people and leave their skeletons on the ground. It was great. I loved it. It was so much fun to see the team go up against this thing. Also, the fact that it wants Caitlin as a bride was a very surprising and very twisted twist. Yep, that's my play on words. As I'm sure you all know, Caitlin tried to bring Frost back because she died fighting Deathstorm, the skull wreathed in flames. Now, I understand Caitlyn's motivation, but the reason why Frost died was because she tried to bring her husband back, which caused Deathstorm and blah 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 blah. Basically, she didn't learn her lesson. So then Barry had to come in there and destroy all her research trying to bring Frost back from the dead. Now, initially, personally, I thought that was a bit harsh and nothing like what Barry would do. That said, she did try to do the exact same thing again just after she failed doing it the first time with her dead husband. So in retrospect, I think it was actually a very badass scene for Barry. And also, at the end of the season, the forces come back in a unexpected way. But nevertheless, Eobard Thawne is reintroduced into the season with his old face, and he can't remember who he is, and he falls in love with someone and actually develops, a conscience. A lot of it has to do with the fact that he can't remember he's the Reverse Flash, but either way, I loved it. It was really fun to see Eobard Thawne as the good guy and Barry try to figure out what the hell's going on. Even though this only lasted for like 2 episodes, it was still really good. Alright, let's move on to Season 9, the last season of The Flash. And we've made it up to the Red Death. This may be, I'm not even kidding, the worst villain the Flash has ever gone up against in this show. I really hated the Red Death, and that sucks because I know what the Red Death is. The Red Death could have been fucking awesome, could have been the best way to end the show. I just think the actress that portrayed, Batwoman and, Red Death, she's not a good actress. I just don't think she was right for this role. She should not have been cast as Batwoman and definitely should not have played Red Death. So going back onto what I mentioned in one of the earlier seasons, I think season 7, when I mentioned that the season 7 had too many villains. This season also has too many villains. And I've noticed that season 6 onwards, they've done this. From season 1 to season 5, they always had a main villain from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. Even though you had like your Freak of the Week villains every now and then, there was still the main threat that they had to study. They had to try and learn how to defeat them, and they would eventually get their asses kicked halfway through, and then eventually beat the bad guy. Now, not every show does it like this, but The Flash was doing it like that, and it worked for the most part. Ever since The Flash started having like more than one main villain in its seasons, I felt like this is very aimless. Like, this is not the great storytelling that we had for the first season of The Flash, or the second season, or the 4th season, even the 3rd season. I, to be honest, think that those earlier seasons were a bit better than these last few seasons of The Flash, 6 to 9. However, how they ended this season with Eddie Thawne coming back as Cobalt Blue was thoroughly investing. A lot of that has to do with Rick Cosnett's performance as Eddie Thawne, as he's trying to decipher and figure out how he's back from the dead, and also how it was written and filmed and just, put together and edited. It was real. Eddie's story for the last part of the season, the last 4 parts of the story, I loved it. It was practically a movie. It was that good to me. Now, I have heard some, chatter online about how people really didn't like the finale of The Flash and that it should have been better than what it was. And to be honest, I don't agree. I really liked the finale of season 9. Even though I hated the beginning, I loved the end. Especially the fact that, Eddie brings back all his arch enemy speedsters, like the main ones. It was great to see Zoom back in that one scene where he's like, "To lock up the darkness." Yeah, that. I can't say it. Only he can say it. Also, Keone as well. Oh my god, a great addition to the Flash. Loved her. And how she goes up against these speedsters. It's like they're nothing to her. I loved her character. There's really not enough good things I can say about the finale. I don't care what you say if you're a hater of the Flash finale, I loved it. But yeah, that's the end of The Flash, guys. I have been reviewing this show since it first came out in 2015. I can't believe it's over. It really, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it is the end of an era, and I don't know what I'm going to do now. Because even though it had its ups and downs, I have always enjoyed The Flash for what it is. And what it is it's a drama, but it's over the top. It is The Flash. It's a guy who can run at light speed, for goodness sake. So yeah, that's my review for The Flash finale. I don't know what else to do now. Yeah, please do like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more DC reviews. And also, I will review the Flash movie one day when I catch up to it. Alright, I'll see you guys in my next video. Yeah. Oh, the things I do for these fucking videos. Oh my god. I hope that was good.